Our world is filled with natural wonders. As with other naturalists fueled with curiosity, I've endeavored to understand as much as I can about these wonders. A timeless and invaluable tool that most naturalists use is a journal. A journal not only helps the naturalist to reflect upon his observations, but protects the observations from the human memory, which is notorious for distorting and neglecting details. I am passionate about my studies and love to share with anybody willing to engage. This is why I create and share my nature journal. While walking through the woods one morning, I noticed some movement in the bushes just above the creek bed. It was a barred owl, and it seemed young. The feathers on its head still looked a little bit fluffy, and it was unusually casual. Usually, a barred owl would have fled by now, or at least gone up to the treetops, where it's a little bit safer. This one did not flee until another owl was hooting in the treetops above me. This is probably the mother up here, eyeballing me and giving warning hoots, and keeping a close eye on her young. Earlier in the season, an injured and rehabilitated barred owl was released here at the sanctuary. Perhaps this is the same one. I felt a little bit bad for blowing their cover. Notice the squeaks coming from the background. That's coming from a northern flicker, unhappy about the predators in their territory. I left pretty quickly before everybody got too stressed out. A couple of days later, and a little farther upstream from the owls, I was looking at a beetle in this tree cavity when a flying squirrel hopped out at me, startling me. Notice how fast it's breathing. I guess it was a lot more startled than I was. Of course, they do not fly. They stretch out their arms and legs, and that flap of skin in between allows them to glide pretty well. And their flat tail acts as a rudder to control their direction. They are said to be fairly common, just rarely seen due to their nocturnal habits. Upon leaving, we took one last glance at the tree cavity and noticed it did have a nest built there in the bottom. One of our most celebrated nesters at the sanctuary this year were the bobolinks. Technically, they were on our neighbor's property, which touches up to ours. They do nest there every year in his hayfield, but unfortunately, the field gets mowed before the nesting is done. We don't hold it against the farmer, he's just making a living, but it is frustrating seeing the bobolink nests get mowed over every year, when if they were on our side, they'd be completely safe. For some reason this year, though, he didn't mow. Maybe because it was too wet when it was time to harvest. I guess it really doesn't matter why he didn't mow. We're just happy to have bobolinks flying around the fields.
Or not.
As usual, there's more interesting insect activity going on. This is a potter wasp making a mud ball. It will construct a cell out of mud, paralyze a caterpillar, and lay its egg in there, and then cap it off with the mud ball when it's all done, before going on to the next. This beetle is said to be a wasp mimic, but other than the coloration, I don't see much resemblance. It is a Clitus ruricola. I don't believe it has a common name. It breeds and lays its eggs in decaying wood, especially that of maple, and then the larva will feed on the decaying maple wood. This is another beetle without a common name, Typoceras zebra. The adults are said to eat pollen mostly from parsnip flowers, but this one's on a valerian. And this beetle, although not beautifully patterned like the others, is still very cool. It's a click beetle. If flipped on its back, it will click its wings together and flip up into the air to right itself. If I had known this at the time, I would have flipped it on its back myself to see it. I also realize now that I'd seen this beetle about a month ago, June 13th to be exact, and wished I'd known it at the time. Another thing that happened on June 13th is that I took this picture of these grubs, which I now realize are the larvae of the click beetle. And here is a common housefly with some sort of orange protrusions growing out of it. I've seen this before, and I'm assuming it's some sort of parasite, but I'm still unable to find any information about it. We found another monarch caterpillar this week. In fact, we're up to 4 now, and there's been adults flying around in every field. And in all of our wetlands with turtlehead, we do have Baltimore checker spots. We were afraid the flood may have washed them away, but they seem to be doing fine. The eastern tiger swallowtail populations seem to be pretty healthy right now also. In the skipper family of butterflies, it is often difficult to distinguish one member from another. If you can't get a good look at one, often the season is a good indicator of which species it would be. Usually, as the season for one skipper is ending, the season for another is just beginning. If one's not paying attention, they could easily miss several species throughout the year, coming and going. The skippers are a butterfly I may focus a little extra on for the rest of the season. This one is the dun skipper. They are very dark butterflies, and only the females have these few little speckles on their hind wings. I'm now noticing Rossell's katydids in every field. This is a male on the right singing, and a female on the left depositing eggs. Notice the female's blade-like ovipositor she is using to cut into the leaves to lay her eggs. I suspect that the male has just breeded her and is now protecting her as she lays her eggs. At one point, he even turns around and approaches her, and she ignores him. My guess is, if he hadn't breeded her already, he would have been more assertive. But he just continued on his way and continued singing, probably in hopes of finding another mate. I watched him sit in this position and sing with no break in his stridulations for about 10 minutes before I decided to move on. This katydid is out of its typical habitat, so must just be passing through. It is the northern bush katydid. They prefer to be in small trees or shrubs in open fields, which this field has none of, or in the canopy of open woods. The northern bush katydid is in the subfamily of false katydids. False katydids are distinguished by having longer hind wings than forewings, and a trait I didn't get a close enough look at to observe: open tympana at the base of each fore tibia. Northern bush katydids are said to be one of the earliest singers of the season. The males gather together and sing a soothing song of soft ticks, followed by 5 to 10 lipsy buzzes, then followed by loud ticks. Here is a recording I found from an internet website, songsofinsects.com. This drumming katydid was found in our parking lot. As its name suggests, it sings its song by drumming its hind legs against leaves or grasses. The song is barely audible to the human ear. They lay their eggs beneath tree bark. They are non-native and probably came from Europe into Long Island as eggs beneath the tree bark of ornamental trees. They have since expanded their range westward. The last katydid I found was in the swamp, the straight-lanced katydid. This is a male. The species is named for the female's long, sword-like ovipositor. Furthermore, this is a nymph. As an adult, it would have wings. There are adults in the swamp. You can hear them singing loudly. Listen to the continuous trill that putters out. The songs can be heard better in the following clips. This grasshopper was difficult to identify because it too is a nymph. It is the red-legged locust, a member of the spur-throated grasshopper family. It is closely related to the two-line grasshopper from last week. The final grasshopper I have this week is the marsh meadow grasshopper, obviously a member of the slant-faced grasshopper family. It has a wide distribution throughout the United States and southern Canada, but seems to be absent from the American Southeast. It is easily identified by the yellow abdominal segments with black patches and the black knees. Males typically have longer wings than the females. This grasshopper is somewhat unique in that both sexes sing. Their song is a series of rapid, raspy chirps, slightly gaining in volume toward the end, each song lasting about 5 seconds, followed by silence. Here is another recording, courtesy of songsofinsects.com. Our mission at Spring Farm Cares Nature Sanctuary is to protect wildlife and enhance habitat around central New York. We thank everybody for supporting us, and if anyone has any questions, comments, would like to learn more, or schedule a tour with us, please check out our website or find us on Facebook.